you know when you read the book and like it's like you find it so interesting and you're like, oh my god, I want to write a book similar to that. But then 99% of us are like by the end of that time we're like, oh, I can't write that. But how did you stand up for one of that 1%? What did you do then?
Well, I think to write a book, you have to be, well, to complete any project, you have to be really passionate about that project, and that passion has to sustain you from the beginning all the way through to the end. Because, like as your colleague was saying earlier, as Abdullah was saying, there'll be many obstacles. There'll be people who will tell you no. There'll be people who will tell you. I have dear friends who always tell me, like, oh, I think it's so great that you wrote a book, but I don't read. So, you know, good for you. So for me, all of my books start with a central question. They start with a central question, like how will traditional people with modern sort of values, how will they find love? Or how does a woman who knows all of her employer's secrets but isn't really her friend, what is her life like? How does a mother of a 10-year-old boy leave her child? What causes her to leave her child? So I start with this question, and in the book, the story ends up being the answer.
All right. So do you see yourself by the end of that journey as a full-time writer in the future, then hopefully?
Well, sadly, most writers do not support themselves from book sales unless you're like Stephen King or even Elizabeth Gilbert. So it takes a really long time to get to that status. So my goal is in the next year to make what I make annually, monthly. So for 2016, inshallah, let's see if I can increase those book sales. Yeah.
Right. So we were talking about writing, and obviously writing involves publishing. And publishing is even sometimes harder than writing the book. Did you face any challenge that involved publishing the book was much harder than writing the book?
Well, publishing is an industry just like any other business, and what a lot of people don't understand is that when you walk into a bookshop or you go into the movie theater and you see, for example, Divergent or The Hunger Chronicles, that a lot of people are behind that project. You think of the writer, but there's a literary agent, there's an editor, there's a marketing team. There's literally hundreds of people involved in a book before a book gets onto the shelf. And so for me, when I was writing Love Comes Later, which is set in Qatar, and is a love story, it's the pink cover. There, I actually had 12 New York agents who were interested in the book, which is what every writer dreams of, right? You want a New York agent because then they can get you into film. Yeah. Well, so they said they were interested, and then I sent them chapters. And so these people who face-to-face, they were really interested and said, oh, we'd love to represent you, suddenly started saying really different things. Like, I remember one woman said, foreign protagonist, male, first-person point of view, overseas setting. I don't know how I would sell this to book clubs. And someone else said, there are no white characters in this book. So what about that? And then the clincher, I was getting this kind of feedback. The clincher was when someone said, bring this book to America and make the protagonist a female and then write back to me. And this is after 3 years of having research and bothered every single Qatari friend I had to read pages, and then I'd be in the middle of writing a scene that would be in a male majlis, and I've never been in a male majlis, and suddenly I would think, wait, in a majlis, do people wear shoes? Do men wear shoes? Who's serving tea in a majlis? Because the reader is relying on me to get those details right. So for someone to say, change everything, and then send it back to me.
So how did you feel when they said that, when they gave you that feedback?
Well, I think there are two kinds of, there are probably lots of kinds of people, but for me, I tend to categorize the world in two groups. There are people who take no for an answer, and then there are people who take no as a challenge. So you probably know which kind of person I am. So I said, no, I think that readers want a different kind of story. And I don't think readers want to read only about Anglo characters that are set in America and have predictable storylines. I think readers want to read other kinds of stories.
All right, then, so some of these books involve some personal topics. And so why are you so interested in writing about some people's private lives? So what is something that is interesting
Well, I think the role of art and the role especially of a writer is to take people into places they might not be able to go themselves, or places that they are interested in learning more about, and to present those places in ways that are unique and different and interesting. And so if it's not personal, then there's nothing at stake for the writer or for the reader or for the characters. It's probably not a very good book.
Okay, so like the most important thing is stake in the person's life. You see that as something interesting.
You have to risk. You have to be willing to
Okay.
risk.
Then that must have been discouraging. Like, did you have people open up to you as much as you thought? Like, people would just come up to you and be like, oh, I want to tell you some personal stories. Do you have like some of these examples or?
Well, when I first started writing, people would come up to me and be like, okay, I know who this story is about. This story is about so-and-so, right? Am I right? And I'd be like, no, actually, it's based on a set of circumstances, and it's a probable story. It might happen, but they're not. I didn't just take someone else's life and then put it into fiction. But even nowadays, I'll go home or I'll go on a visit, I'll catch up with friends I haven't seen in a while, and they'll say things to me like, oh yeah, did I hear you're writing or something? Like, do you read, or wait, did I hear you wrote a song? So,
Yeah.
so yeah, people are busy with their own lives. So again, that goes back to that idea of passion. You have to really believe in what you're doing.
Okay, so when you believe in what you're doing, what are some of like the obstacles, or what are the stuff that you overcame during your journey of becoming a writer, and what advice would you give to students who want to be writers as a profession in the future?
Well, the first thing you have to be really, really clear about is why you're writing. Because if it's to make money, then you're going to go about it in a very different way than if it's to tell a good story, or if it's to capture your family's experiences, or there's a whole list of reasons why people write. And if you're clear about what that is, then I think it's much easier. So for me, I knew that I had to be in it for the long haul. Like, I've been writing for 10 years, and so they say in writerly circles that it takes 1 million words to get to your actual voice, to find out who you are as a writer. And I tried to calculate how many words I've written thus far with my 8 books, and I think it's only like 250,000. So I still have a long way to go.